Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today.
Welcome, Abigail.
I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Podcast.
Of course, I'm super excited to learn all about you and your books. Today we have Abigail O'Bryan.
And I love getting behind
She has her debut novel coming out in August.
Podcast,
Yay,
make sure
congratulations.
And stop in
the name of the book is Iron Rose. Do you want to jump in and tell us all about it?
Until next time.
Yes, I would love to.
The magic.
So, Iron Rose is a dark YA reimagining of Beauty and the Beast. And it has like the action and pacing of Hunger Games. So if you are on a Hunger Games hangover currently after Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Songbirds, I should know.
Yeah, I read it too, and yes, that Snakes and Songbirds.
That one, in whatever order it is. If you're on a hangover from that, this is going to be a great option for you. And it also has some of the feelings of the magic of Uprooted by Naomi Novik. And I am super excited for it to be out in the world.
How long? I mean, obviously, writers spend a long time writing this. How long has this been in the works for you?
I can laugh about it now. But I started this in high school, like in my office aid periods. And worked on it all throughout college. I was a creative writing major, and I finished it my junior year of college. And then I queried it for several years, and it didn't go anywhere, and it made me very sad. In part because I had like worked on this story, and being in the English department, I came across lots of other writers who did approached writing in lots of ways. And they all seemed to have like a million ideas and they just couldn't get to all of them. And I just had this one idea. And I just kept working on that. And it had my soul. And so to see it not go anywhere for a long time, that was really rough. And so I actually, about 6 years ago, I decided to just shelve it and like writing too, because I didn't have any other ideas. It was just that because I was about to become a mom, and I was like, I just can't be bleeding out emotionally all the time if I'm about to go into this huge new life stage that's going to take a lot. And so I kind of banked those embers, and it was really hard. I mean, this was like a process of a year of like, this has been a dream. I personally believe in like a higher power that I have like a loving relationship with. And so also having that being like, why would you put this in me and then like just let it fester basically? So all of that was like really rough for a long time. And I finally just like banked those embers and was like, I don't know. I'm not saying that I'll never write again. But I'm also not saying that I will write again. So I put that aside, and I parented for 5 years and got really into gardening and spent a lot of time playing my cello and just other creative kind of outlets. But last year, the absolute craziest thing happened. It's straight up like a divine phone call. I got a phone call from a friend who we're not phone call friends. We've worked on projects together. She is such a lovely person. We've never lived in the same state. We have rarely even lived in the same country. We actually met in Scotland. And she called me and was like, hey, so you know how I've always loved Iron Rose? And I'm like, yes, thank you. You've held a candle for it. Like when I feel like even I couldn't hold a candle for it. And she was like, yeah, so I pitched it to this publisher that I know.
Oh my goodness.
Right? And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. Whenever it's like you're focusing on a phone call or like just really focusing on anything, and then it gets real interesting and it's like the world around you just disappears. It was that where it was like, I'm on the phone. I was like, kind of just like walking around in the spare room, like putting some stuff away and being like, yeah, what's up? Are you stuck at the airport? Like,
Why
and
would
then
you call me?
yeah. And then she was like, yeah, I pitched Iron Rose and they're really interested. Do I have permission to, like, if you send me the manuscript, if you want to, like, I will send it to them. And it was like the whole world disappeared. And I was like, okay, remember how to breathe. Yes. Absolutely. And so I sent it to her and like there was a like super fast turnaround time on the publisher's part. They wanted it. I like did some crazy like revisions and everything because it's YA. And so I cut out like 33,000 words.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. My husband is actually also a writer. It's how we met. And that has been absolutely incredible. Like there are challenges, obviously, because like when you're both pursuing the same dream and like it's not the timing isn't matching up, it's just hard. But also on the other hand, like I couldn't ask for a better support because I don't have to convince him that like this is the dream. He's like, yeah, no, I'm in. Like, do whatever you need to do at any time. Um, so he was great for brainstorming some of those things. I would like emerge from like revisions and just like lay on the floor and be like, Wesley, I need to cut out an entire battle scene. How do I still communicate these things? And we would like sit and he would have a couple thoughts and then I would be like, okay, all right, yeah, no, I see how using your thoughts and using these thoughts, I can connect this together and I'm gonna go disappear again. Anyway, so all of this is to say that Iron Rose, the bulk of it, I did like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. Um, but it's only coming to fruition now. And uh, I think that's actually been a really good thing for me, even though it was really painful to wait. But it was really incredible to, when the doors did open, all of my like passion, it was like the door opened and I was like, oh, it's all still there. It's like opening the door to a greenhouse and being like, oh, I thought because outside it's winter, I just assumed, and then you open the door and you're like, no, it's a tropical paradise. Everything's still alive. It's running rampant. And that's like how I was feeling about like my story and the passion of getting it out there. And yeah, so I've been jumping back into it and honestly learning how to write again because now I'm writing a second story. And that's been really interesting because this is the first time that I have had to sit down and be like, all right, I am now going to write a book. Because with the first one, it was like inspired by this fairy tale that I love, and it was just my own kind of personal project. And definitely within there came a point where I was like, no, I'm writing this to be the best it possibly can be so it can be published and other people can read it. But it didn't start like that. And so starting with the intention of writing a book that is going to be published, that's a new process for me.
Well, kudos to you for waiting that long. I don't know that I would have had that patience and or the ability to put it away. So that's very, very cool story. So tell me about the fairy tale retelling genre, and as a second question afterwards, maybe why you think people are so drawn to these, because obviously lots of people are.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I love the fairy tale retelling genre. And I think in part because people love familiarity and people love twists. So like we want to be surprised, but we want to be surprised within parameters. And so I feel like fairy tale retellings give us that, where it's like, I know that I love these elements, or I know I love this kind of story. And so, for instance, like Beauty and the Beast, like there's always going to be love, and it's always going to be like a redemptive kind of love. It's going to be a love that like drastically shifts a person's life. And so I think that people can expect that, like, regardless of how different any kind of Beauty and the Beast retelling is from the other, like, you're still going to get these elements that you personally connect with. And then, like, on a whole, I think it's so popular because the reason why fairy tales have endured is because they have these elements that are core about like our society and humanity. And so because they have already endured, they will continue to endure. But I'm trying to think exactly. I'm not going to remember this exact quote, but if you have never read Madeleine L'Engle's nonfiction, so she wrote A Wrinkle in Time, which is what she's most known for, but she actually has a slew of nonfiction, and it's fabulous. But she talks about these archetypes that keep showing up in stories that are true to reality. So there's like the princess, and then there's like the wise old woman. And so it's like there's like parts in us that are beautiful and need to be like loved and protected. And then there are also parts of us that are like wise and can help other people navigate through the world. And then we also all have like the prince in us, which is the one who like goes forth and fights dragons and like goes on adventures and protects people and shifts the landscape around them. And so I feel like, especially in fairy tales, we get to dive into these archetypes that do speak to who we are just as humans in ways that are maybe a little bit clearer than some other genres.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I go back to the same series and I'll watch it. I'll watch, if it's made into a show, I'll watch the show. And then sometimes I'll see the show. Oh, I should read the books. And I'm like captivated by both in different ways. So Tell me about your take on Beauty and the Beast and Iron Rose then. Can you tell us about some of your twists, the premise of Iron Rose?
Yeah, absolutely. So Iron Rose first came about because I loved the fairy tale, and I'm a 90s kid, so I grew up on the Disney animated version of Beauty and the Beast. And I loved it. And also, even as a child, I was like, hold up, I have some questions. And so what Iron Rose sprang out of were those questions. So, for instance, I like did the math, and when the enchantress curses the prince, he's 11. Like, she curses him for being selfish and also not letting a stranger into his house when he's 11. I'm like, I don't know. And so I was thinking about like what would be the reason why someone would curse a child? And I'm like, well, it's not good. So this means that they're the villain. So that already shifts things. Because this curse is like not for his betterment. And also the question of like, what happened to the kingdom? Like, we know what happened to the castle, but like, what happened to the kingdom when their ruler disappeared? And then there was this potential villain. And then my question was like, how could someone actually fall in love with a beast? Like, you have to you have to be able to be in the same room as them and not be terrified. And so my answer to like what kind of person could do that is someone who this is not their biggest problem, that they have faced scarier things and that this does not compare. So all of those things together make the premise of Iron Rose, where you follow Lydia, who's the Belle character, who is a captain in a rebel army that is trying to win back their country from this tyrant, the Crimson Lord. There's a lot of mystery around him, but he and his army have thoroughly taken over the country about 10 years ago and have just been destroying it. And then you also follow the Beast, Adam, where he is in like the ruins of the North, and there are many secrets about him. There's a twist about how you break the curse and what the curse actually is. So what you end up with is this like very powerful woman who shows up in the castle and is basically calculating like whether or not she should try to kill the Beast. So
that's definitely a different take there.
It's a different dynamics, and there are much higher stakes because her whole deal is like she's trying to get back to win a war, to like unite the country and win a war. It's not just personal, it's like on a larger scale what the stakes are. But there are definitely personal stakes as well.
That is such a neat, because I would have never thought to think about how old the Beast was cursed. And I don't know that for some reason Beauty and the Beast was never my favorite. Like I liked Snow White, I liked a couple other ones. Beauty and the Beast wasn't my favorite, so maybe that's why I didn't concentrate on it as much. Mm-hmm. But definitely a very cool take, and it sounds like you have all those action pieces going on too. So I can definitely see the Hunger Games, Beauty and the Beast mashup.
Yeah, this is basically like Iron Rose is like, what if Belle was Katniss? That's not how I like framed it when I was writing it, but it's helpful for people to understand the kind of Belle character that I'm writing.
And is this a medieval world? Are we?
Yeah, this is a medieval country. The first in a series of fairy tale retelling standalones that are, interconnected, but you can read it in any order. That is the idea. And so there are a couple other countries on the same continent where these other stories will take place. And they have various levels of technology and magic. The country that all of the action of Iron Rose takes place in is very small and very isolated. And so, and has been actively destroyed for the past 10 years. And so in a lot of ways, it's behind the rest of the continent.
Okay. Interesting. So fine. Well, and it sounds like you're going to have a lot of springboards for different fairy tale retellings. Which one are you working on now?
I'm writing a gender-bent Sleeping Beauty right now. It's been super fun. The general gist is that a cursed prince and a thread witch have to work together to unravel the magic cursing their country before the Fae take over.
Oh. So evil Fae. Interesting.
Evil Fae and the thread witch and the prince are enemies. It will definitely be enemies to lovers because they are not friends.
But still all in the YA genre.
Yes.
Fun. Fun. Very fun. And talk about a little bit about maybe you talked about redemption. What are some other themes that you especially like to bring up or will be bringing up through these stories?
Yeah. Well, I can definitely speak to Iron Rose's themes for sure. The other ones are still up in the air, but for Iron Rose, there is a large focus on sacrifice because Lydia has this weird kind of idea about sacrifice where she's like, her life is only as valuable as it is useful. And so she's ready to die really at any time, which is not healthy. But it goes through like this, she goes through a shift through her relationship with Adam where she begins to see that she might just have value in of herself and then have to reconcile that with she's still in a situation where she very much might have to sacrifice her life anyway, because this is a war. So sacrifice and self-worth, the power of like love and connection breaking the power of shame is a very big theme for Adam. So those things are huge. And also just like the various bonds, like the dedication for it is for my loves of every kind. And because Iron Rose is about several different kinds of love. So there are many different kinds of love. There's romantic love. There's like the love of siblings and family members and mentors. There's the love of like your people. And there's the love of yourself.
Yeah, I was thinking that Lydia would be a very hard character, and it might be hard for her to even think about opening up to like a romantic relationship when she has all these other things I'm saving the world going on. And the fact that she would maybe initially at least not even think about something like that. So
No.
she would, I have my goal. I'm moving towards my goal, and then be blindsided by these maybe romantic feelings.
Yeah, this is. I feel like I can say this really without spoilers, but like this is definitely a he falls first situation by like a lot.
Well, it's funny because then I was likening it to, because I have a little bit of an enemies to lovers. I did it in my romance. And yeah, she hates him at the beginning, but it's a workplace romance. But, I mean, Lydia, the general of the army meeting the beast is also kind of workplace, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, those themes are a little bit universal.
Yeah, she's very angry at him that he is shut away in the castle because she's like, what are you doing? You are like so powerful. Why aren't you out there helping us?
Right. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Well, I'm guessing his shame keeps him locked away.
Yeah.
This sounds like such a sweet story and an amazing adventure. I'm excited to pick it up and read it.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled that it is going out into the world as opposed to being like emailed to classmates. Like this feels like it is the realization of a dream. I'm so thrilled.
I'm super excited for you. And I was looking at your website. It looks like you have a short story that we can download free.
Yeah. So, if you pop onto my website, there is a short story called The Pack, and it is a little prequel, like a little bite-sized prequel to Lydia's story, because it is mentioned that her background is that for a portion of time before she joined the army, she lived on the streets with her brother, and that's actually where she picked up a lot of the skills that she brought and changed the army with. And so this is the story of her and her brother Thomas on the streets as kids and changing. It follows the shift for her, two things, I guess. It follows the shift for her of being sort of this like helpless victim to someone with agency. So that shift happens there. And you also get to see this shift where she becomes Thomas's protector, which is a huge motivation in the book. Most of her motivation in the book is keeping her brother alive. They are actually twins.
Wow.
At the beginning of the short story, he's the one who's taking care of her. Then there are incidents, and you can see that there is a shift in her that carries on for the rest of her life.
Oh, that's neat. Well, I will definitely go download that then so that I'll be ready for Iron Rose. Tell us where we can find you, your website, any other links?
Yeah. So you can find me at authorabigailobryan.com, or I'm pretty active on Instagram. And so you can find me at Abigail_O'Bryan_author. And it would just be so lovely to have you guys on my journey, especially Iron Rose is being published through a small press. And one thing that I wasn't expecting, but I'm so grateful for, is because there isn't like this huge corporation behind me, I've really had to like get my feet on the ground and rely on individuals that I meet and connect with to like spread the word and help make Iron Rose successful. But it has been so rewarding, these connections. And so truly, if you pop on to Instagram and say hi, or if you join my newsletter, like I will be grateful for you individually. And it truly makes all the difference in the world. So I would appreciate it so much. If this sounds like your cup of tea, then join me and I would love to have you.
We will definitely follow like all those fun things because the reader community is amazing. That's one thing I've learned by being in this community. And I've made so many good relationships from people that I would have never met before. So I'm also so grateful for that and grateful for you for being here. And we will follow your journey. So thank you.
Readers, they're just like the best people. So we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.